Ever since I started this channel, I've wanted to talk about this game, Xenocracy, for the PS1. As you can probably tell from the box art, it's a game about space. Let's do it! I'll just go put it in, shall I? Then we can start. Yes, one moment, please.
Grolier Interactive's Xenocracy, The Ultimate Solar War, was developed by Simus Limited and released in 1998, and is a 3D space shooter crossed with a kind of political simulator. I find the opening FMV to the game explains it best.
The year is 10600 of the Common Era. Mankind has colonized space, founding a solar dominion on the power and wealth created by the mineral lycosite. Earth, Mars, Venus, and Mercury wage a potent war for the outer colonies and their rich reserves. You are the wing toucher commanding the elite UPN Special Operations Executive. Your mission is to defend the colonies from aggression, to limit the fighting, and to ensure the superpowers preserve the fragile peace. The stability of the Union depends on your ability to balance the interests of the planet nations. Only you stand between peace and the threat of a thermostellar conflict.
So, as you can gather, you play as a leader of a starfighter squadron for the UPN, a United Nations-like body charged with maintaining stability in the solar system. There are two play modes presented to you after entering your choice of name or call sign: Simulation and Arcade. In Arcade mode, you fly 10 missions sequentially with a good old-fashioned high score at the end based on your performance, which is all a real gamer needs.
Real gamer. Imagine if we applied this kind of terminology to other hobbies, like a real cross-stitcher or a real reader.
Simulator mode is where things get interesting. In this mode, you control your own little slice of the UPN from this central hub. If you can manage to read it.
We'll get into the specifics in a moment, but for now, let's focus on the exciting bits like the shoom shoom and the pew 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 pew.
The flying controls are a little weird, but not really distractingly so. In normal operation, the stick and D-pad functions while flying, kind of like a combination of yaw and roll together, as opposed to the standard easy mode configuration used in most flying games, that is, taking the stick to the east or west, implementing a slight roll and pitch, causing the ship or plane to turn. Again, as opposed to sim mode, where you need to engage the pitch and roll independently. Alternatively, you can hold down the L2 button to make left and right movements a barrel roll instead of this weird yaw-roll combination which it normally does. Although I would have preferred if they'd just made it an option instead. Most sim flyers will be more used to this kind of control configuration. I probably wouldn't have used it though. I like the default control scheme, weird as it may be, so that's what I used.
But enough of this technical jargonious rambling. How does it play, you inquire? Well, let's launch and find out, shall we?
Of night and the feast of fools. Today there was to be a bonfire on the grave.
Okay, we're fine.
The flying is pretty damn good. Now, I'm no connoisseur of flying games, but to me at least, it's quite enjoyable and as responsive as it needs to be. You have all the standard weapon types, like guns, lasers, torpedoes, homing missiles, decoys, and even harpoons, and they all have a satisfying sense of weight to them, and each of the different ships you fly feel very specialized with their capabilities. Speaking of ships, you have 5 different ones to choose from, each with a fabulous paint job and fully customizable weapon loadout on each. You can have up to 4 of each weapon at a time, but you're always stuck with at least 1 starting laser, which is annoying. On top of this customization, you can also choose your Weapon System Operator, or WSO, who each have differing stats to aid you in combat, as well as repetitive but colourful in-mission commentary.
Bandit padlocked.
Torpedoes running.
Locked and loaded. Let's rock. Bandit now 6. They're hitting the primary target.
Major Burns?
They're hitting the primary target.
So apparently Major Burns from MASH can be one of your co-pilots. I wouldn't pick him. Nope.
You can also choose, if you wish, to have an unoccupied WSO fly with you as a wingman. The pros, you get an extra ally and some more firepower on your side. The cons, you risk another WSO on the field, and if you're not careful, they could be killed. More on that later. Another interesting feature is that missions don't really end. To leave the battle theater, you have to press all 4 shoulder buttons down at the same time to gate out, as they call it. You can do this at any time, whether you've completed your mission objectives or not, and you can also order your wingman to at any time gate out as well, giving you the option to bug out if you sustain too much damage. This gives you the option of doing missions with surgical high priority hits, or wiping the field to boost that ever important high score.
So how about that much-touted political simulator? Well, it works like this.
There are 4 factions represented by the 4 inner planets of the Solar System: Earth, Mars, Venus, and Mercury, and you play as the suspect-sounding Wing Toucher, whose job it is to ensure that each of these factions remains stable and part of the United Planetary Nations. Every turn on the situation screen, different coloured exclamation points will alert you of skirmishes going on in different locations. Each one of these having a small clip of FMV from each nation's ambassadors pleading their case as to why you should support them.
Wing Toucher, Earth forces are now in position to assault a weakly defended combined colony. We fear they'll attack at any moment.
Our military action has been sanctioned by the Europa Pact.
Under the convention, we request UPN assistance in the eviction.
Any attempt at invasion will be met with ultimate force.
An interesting quirk of these is that they seem to be cut off just prematurely, which amuses me every time.
We ask the UPN to intervene and stop this assault immediately.
Wing Toucher, please send aid immediately.
I think they need a better editor.
Also, my copy of the game isn't in the best condition, so sometimes this hilarity happens.
Has broken bridge shutters. Ship echoes leak through that. We are here to seize illegal oil and more provision, trade tension.
Scrum the fleet! Run for the arms! Send them
Now, back to the simulator. The red points designate attacks, while the yellow ones designate preemptive strikes, and based on a planet's stability, you choose which missions to fly. The result of that mission, and the ones you didn't choose, will be reflected in each planet's stability and economic ratings, which are displayed in a graph at the end of each mission. Ignore or perform poorly for a planet for too long, and their stability will fall, and eventually they'll secede from the UPN. If too many of them secede, then war will break out, and as the game says, millions of people will die. So don't screw up, you hear me, kid?
One could be forgiven for thinking that the political aspects of this game lack some depth. You don't get to use your power to dish out justice or be sympathetic to those who most deserve it, but instead your one and only goal is to just maintain the status quo. Even if a planet is clearly in the wrong, if their stability is too low and you need to be on their side to stop them from seceding from the UPN, you need to do it. And you also need to keep their economic stability up because the planet governments fund the UPN R&D. Throughout the game, you choose how much funds go into which projects to boost the combat effectiveness of your ships and develop new weapons. And unless you're one hell of a pilot, you will need these new weapons late game. You need to assume everyone is out to get everyone else at every juncture and just try and keep everyone in deals where no one is happy in order to keep funding for your fleet and your R&D. and prevent all-out war by sacrificing the few for the many and keeping the fat cat's pockets lined with resources, while at the same time fighting an unallied foe which no one seems to want to band together to defeat.
While the population is pandered to by an ignorant media.
Holy crap! This isn't a political simulator! This is a political emulator!
I'll tell you what doesn't lack depth, though. The lore. In the History tab, there are a full 9 pages of it. Long pages. Detailing the rise of the UPN and the colonial wars and... well, I won't spoil it for you. Whether you like it or not is subjective, but it's there if you want it. There is also an information tab which gives you all the stats on the various faction ships and weapons, and for some reason a fact sheet on each of the then 9 planets to rival Wikipedia. The graphics, while not amazing, have a style that I find quite appealing, at least for the space missions. The in-atmosphere assignments have terrible draw distance considering how sprawling they can be, and your enemies only appear on your radar up to a certain distance, which can risk it turning into one of those where the hell do I go kind of games, especially when there's no compass. And also, just look at the main HUD on this particular moon. The green readouts don't contrast with this particular shade of blue, meaning that you have to angle straight up to even read a damn thing. That's just simple poor design.
The biggest flaw, though, in the simulation mode is this. Oh. The replay button.
After each mission you do, you can choose to either accept what happened, be it good or bad, or you can just hit that button and redo it. Remember those WSOs and wingmen? Well, if you screw up and get one of them killed, you can always just gate out immediately and hit that replay button straight away at no cost. And if the enemy is too powerful, you can just gate both yourself and your wingman out and take a stability hit. I just find it to be a weird game-breaking addition in this kind of progressive campaign, which takes away almost all the consequences of flying a bad mission. With a little self-discipline, Xenocracy is a fun and entertaining little space sim, and I'm excited to see where the story goes in the future.
And so, that's about it when it comes to Xenocracy. I mean, the campaign does kind of develop a bit later on. There's a couple more factions which kind of get involved at various points, but if you want to know about that, you're going to have to play the game yourself, aren't you? All in all, I find it to be a pretty enjoyable little space fly, you know? Controls are very tight. The political simulator adds a bit of an extra element into like whether you choose the missions, and it's not like procedurally generated. As far as I can tell, if you choose the same missions and like get the same sort of political balancing, it will be the same every time you play it. So the choices you make are actually choices. They don't just randomly sort of generate outcomes. But now there is a PC version on top of this. It's very hard to come by. The only actual copy I've seen is in the possession of LGR, Lazy Game Reviewer, where it can be seen in the background of some of his thrifting videos. But apart from that, there are no other reviews on YouTube, so I don't know much about the PC version, except that it had 8-player LAN multiplayer or something like that, but I'm not quite sure how that worked. There's no multiplayer in the PS1 version. But if I ever come across it, I'll take a look at it. And you should too. It's a great game. So, overall, on a scale of playing it to hating it, I'm definitely keeping this one. You know, I'm keeping it. It's not one that I'd put in kind of my standard rotation of play, but it's the kind of thing you like to, you know, pop in for about a week and, you know, see how far you get. As far as I can tell, there is an ending, and the instruction manual does reference a final choice of some sort, but I'm about 30-ish, close to 40 missions in, and I still don't have the ending in sight. I'm still developing new weapons, so this could go as long as 50 or maybe 100 missions for all I know. I'll keep you updated if I do, but yeah, I'm definitely keeping this one. Well, that's about it for now. Until next time, KeithShizuo out. laugh. Okay, let's do it again. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm fine.